Today we're going to begin part 2 of the How to Budget series. My name is Adam Lasowski. Welcome to the 3-Minute Advisor. Let's start the clock. Now hopefully after the last video you've been able to create a spreadsheet or an app or even on pen and paper and gone through a bank statement and a credit card to know what you're spending. Now the next step for us is to really start to understand that spending in a little bit of a different way. And the way I like to approach it is through categorizing those expenses. Now why should we categorize it? Well, when we start to look at money that's coming in and money that's going out and money that's being saved, if one of those is way out of whack, we're spending way more and not saving nearly enough, which is pretty common, we want to know what types of expenses we could potentially cut back on. So to begin with, we're going to want to look at a couple different types of expenses that we would define as mandatory, liability, or discretionary expenses. We'll kind of cover each of these in this video. Now to begin with, we're going to want to look at our mandatory expenses. Now mandatory expenses, you can probably guess from the name alone, are expenses that are not going anywhere anytime soon. So it'd be like a cell phone bill. This would be things like your utility bill. These are things that you're paying month after month or maybe a quarter every year, and there's no getting around it. These are not things that you can cut back on or eliminate. You have to have these services from somewhere to maintain a comfortable standard of living. Now a type of mandatory expense, which I do want you to still categorize on your budget, is a liability expense. These are expenses that again are currently mandatory, but they won't always be there. These are things that I typically conceptualize as mortgage payments, car payments, usually some type of loan, right? These are things that you have to pay or else your car gets repossessed. But 5 years from now, as long as you still have that same car, that payment goes away. So while it's mandatory now, they will be dropping off your budget eventually. Again, we would call these liabilities. Now the final type of expense, and probably the number that might surprise you the most, are what we would consider to be discretionary expenses. These are expenses that everyone has, no matter how tight of a budget you run. These are simple, just quality of life things. Netflix subscription, going out to eat, taking money out of an ATM to spend on the way home at McDonald's. Any of these types of things are what we would consider to be discretionary. If they weren't on that budget, if they weren't appearing in your bank statement, yeah, your quality of life might not be quite as great, but you'd probably still be able to survive without them. Again, these are typically the things that we can cut back on if we need to. So identifying those from this budget will help us down the road as we start to kind of balance everything out. Remember, getting great at personal finance is something you can do. It's possible. And if you can't, leave a comment or question below. Maybe we can help out. Thanks for watching.